Hi guys, bit of a quickish video, down and dirty. Just got my phone propped up there. I'm going to be sorting out, or starting to sort out, this rather nice Mora I've got. It's a bit unusual to other Moras. One, it's my other Mora certainly. One, it's a bit of a classic one from the 1970s. I think it was introduced in 1975. It's the Morakniv Hunter, and the model number is 1701. So if you want to Google it, just put in Mora Hunter 1701. Okay, it's a little bit unusual in that, although most Moras are used as hunting knives as well as utility and bushcraft knives, this one was more of a dedicated hunting knife. So I'm going to be sorting it out. It's got a few issues. And in no way do I mind that. I quite enjoy sorting out stuff like this, and also it just shows me it's had a bit of a life. So first up, you can see the sheath has had a lot of wear, and this is all, so it's obviously spent a lot of time on some hunter fisherman's belt. I've got no problem with that. I'll sort the leather out with some dubbing and beeswax, and maybe even some mink oil. Okay, let's get to the bit everyone wants to see. Okay, so here's the knife. It's a little bit unusual in that it's more of a hunting style knife. It's got a fantastic handle onto it, and trust me on this, this is one of the most comfortable handles I've ever had, and I've got quite a few knives. Fantastic. Okay, so get to the issues. It might be difficult to show you on this, so I've took some photos on my other phone, and I'll upload them here so you can see the chips in the blade. So I should have uploaded those photos, but let's see if we can get a little bit of a look on here. Okay, so there's chips all up the edge here. There's three big ones, but the edge is pretty rank and gash, as you can see, but the photos will show it better. So basically this edge, it needs the bevel re-established. Crazy thing is, the bits where there's no chipping, it's razor sharp still. I mean, there you go, you can see it's been sharpened a lot, which means it's been used a lot, which I've got no problem with. I'm going to enjoy this knife. I've got a few trips coming up. Got some fishing with my grandsons, hopefully, and maybe a hunting trip to Hungary in a few months, but that's just, we'll see. That's just a bit of a hope, that one. And if I am, then I'm going to enjoy using this classic knife. You see it's very Scandinavian looking, sort of hunting, fishing knife. They did do a fishing type model of this knife. It has a slightly thinner blade and it has a scaler across the back. Now, if anyone has one of those they'd be willing to part with, I think that's a bit of a forlorn hope. Either leave a message in the comments or go to my Instagram channel, which is also Feral Grandad, and I'd be very interested in that. I'm more of a fisherman than a hunter, but I think this one, even though it's sort of slightly more of a hunting knife, it's got a lovely profile. I could fillet fish with this all day long. So it's got quite a bad bevel, probably one of the worst ones I've ever seen. So it's going to need some heavy lifting to get it done. Now I normally use Waterstones, Japanese Waterstones, and I'm going to use that on these as well. But I had to get a new one. I haven't had to, but it will save me some work. This is King Waterstones. I like the Kings, they're a classic. You get a lot of stone for your money. This is a 220 grit. Now, no, I normally use 1,000 grit on my work knives, and if I'm polishing them up, I go to a 6,000. But I wanted to be able to remove a fair bit of metal fairly quickly, so I went and got the 220. It'll also be handy to doing axes and things on, and tools, chisels, that kind of thing. So this is the 220 grit. King Waterstone. I think I paid £22 for this on eBay. That's the other reason I like the Kings. They are really good value for money. If you want to Google it, it's the King Japanese Waterstone, and the model is 6-45 220. But if you put in King 220 grit, I'm sure it'll pop up. So what we're going to do, get set up, get a bucket of some water, get it soaking, because it is a soaking stone, I think. I'm not 100% sure. We'll see how it reacts to the water, and we'll start. I'll get back to you in a sec. Right, so unpack the stone. Got a tub of water. Let's pop the stone in the tub. And I think you can hear the bubbles. It's bubbling quite a lot, so yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a soaking stone. So I'm going to soak it till all the bubbles disappear, give it another couple of minutes, get set up, and then we'll get started with sorting out this knife. Speak to you in a second. Right, well that didn't take as long as I thought, so maybe it's not a soaking stone. I gave it about 5 minutes. It seems to have took on water, the bubbles all stopped. I've got some more water here if I have to add any on top while I'm working. The base is rubber thing, so it seems to be gripping quite nicely. Dry cloth, wet cloth. So I think we'll make a start. So the thing about a Scandi that's nice is, as if you've seen any of my other videos about sharpening with different techniques, you just lay the blade flat and then tip it up, and that's your angle. Let's get that out of the way. So I'm going to do a couple of strokes each side. Yeah, the stone seems to be quite nice. Moving a little bit, but I'll just be a bit careful. Yeah, I seem to be getting all the blade. And it's a case of like doing that until the chips disappear. It shouldn't take too long with such a coarse stone. So, what I'm going to do to keep even, I'm going to do 10 a side. I'm not using hardly any pressure. This is a really coarse stone. Now I know I want to be taking off quite a lot of material, but slow and steady wins the race, and all those euphemisms that your dad used to tell you when you were younger and used to think he was a bit stupid, and now you're a bit older you realise he wasn't as stupid as people think. And because I was talking I lost count, so I'm going to say that's 7, 8, 9, 10. Get the cloth. Yep, we seem to be getting the whole bevel. It's obviously got quite a bit of work ahead of us, so a little bit more water. And we'll do 10 the other side. I like to set my stone up about navel height, navel with my big belly, and I find that way I can concentrate. And then as I push it long and up, I lift the heel a little bit to get the sweep on the knife. But this is a heck of a coarse stone, but there's nice feedback. Kingstones are great. They've been around forever, and I mean forever, and they're just good quality at a good price. Yeah, you've got your nano-was and all the posh ones, which are lovely. You can't beat a Kingstone for price and performance. Okay, this is going to take some time, so I'll get to work and I'll get back to you when we're a bit nearer. So I think we're probably about halfway through now, but I'm going to switch the camera back on to ask a question, which is a little bit of a dilemma. So I can't find out definitively if these came with a micro bevel, or whether they were like a 100% pure Scandi, you know? So, right, let's just concentrate a bit more on the plunge line. There we go. So I've seen photos. My friend Garrett sent me a photo of his. Actually, he's a fantastic Mora admin on nearly every. He's on all the Mora Facebook pages. Incredibly knowledgeable. Got one of the best collections of Moras in the world, or certainly in Europe. Yeah, so if you know whether these came with a pure Scandi, I've looked at photos and they all seem to, even fairly new ones on the internet, and I've seen them with both. So if you have an opinion either way, go down into the comments and say, yeah, I'd run mine as pure. If it was my knife, I'd run it as pure Scandi. If it was my knife, I'd put a micro bevel on. Now, most of my Moras and my Scandis in general, I've got to say, have a pure Scandi. But this one isn't just a pure woodworking knife. It's going to be used for hunting as well, and skinning and all sorts of things. So, would you run a micro bevel or not? Answers down below. Or you can always message me on, as I say, Feral Grandad on Instagram. But you'd be quicker, just pop a message in below, and we'll see and we'll see if what the consensus is. Because I don't, all my Moras and Scandinavs are pure Scandis, but this one, I mean, I'm not set in stone about. So if anyone's got any opinion, let me know. Okay, I'll bring you back when I'm a bit nearer to finishing. If anyone's sort of wondering what technique I'm using to hog off all this metal, and it is pretty brutal, I've got to say, I'm taking off a fair amount of metal, more than I'd like to take off, but they're pretty bad chips and they've got to come out. You can feel, I reckon I'm about halfway down. The way I'm doing it is I'm laying the knife on, tipping it up. This isn't a sharpening tutorial by any means, I'm just showing you if you're wondering how I'm doing it. I'm tipping it up, I'm using medium pressure. I could use more pressure, but I'm a bit loath to do it. I'm tipping it up until, the great thing about Waterstone is it pushes the water out ahead of the blade, so I know I'm at the right angle. Putting 3 fingers on. Now this one I put actually on the bevel to push it, and that maintains my contact, and these fingers are just to guide it. And I'm just going back and forwards. More pressure on the back stroke, and then I lift it for the tip, and I'm just staying on the Scandi. I mean, this is pretty much how I would sharpen a Scandi knife anyway, but I'm using a much more aggressive stone, and I'm putting a little bit more pressure on. I'm doing the one side, just keeping a rough idea, because I want to keep the bevel even. So I'm doing a fairly even either side, but I'm keeping it on the bevel, using my 3 fingers to walk along the blade. And then what I'm doing is, every now and then, I'm doing a few strokes, alternate, just to kind of blend them all in. Now, if anyone's wondering about the scratch pattern, you can see for a 250 it's pretty matte. 250 scratch pattern is pretty coarse, but I will say it's nice and even, and the bits that aren't chipped are still pretty sharp. But yeah, I don't know if you can see those. You can see getting a nice slurry on the stone, which helps cut it. And I'll get back to doing some more on this, and I'll bring you back in when we're nearer finished. Another small thought while I'm doing this is if you are using Waterstone, try and use the the corners, use the whole stone. It means you won't have to flatten it as often as you think you will. Right, let's do a couple of alternate. Because obviously the flatter they are, the more efficient they are. Let's have a little clean. Yeah, there's a big burr this side, which I expect from a coarse stone, but they're slowly disappearing. I'll show you the scratch pattern we got if I can. You know, for all the fact it's a coarse scratch pattern, it is getting more even, and it's cutting and needs a bevel. It won't be perfect. This is we've got 20. This is a 40-year-old knife. Could be a 40-year-old knife. It's had a lot of work. Obviously the guy who owned this before, girl that owned this before, was either a hunter or a fisherman, and put it to good use, and then they sharpened it when they needed to. So you can see the actual blade where I haven't sharpened is just more shiny and reflective, but because of the coarse scratch patterns where I have been sharpening is a bit more matte. And we'll deal with that with progressively less coarse grits as we go. But today we're just getting rid of the chips out of the blade. The other thing worth pointing out is if this had been a different grind, i.e. a flat grind, we'd be done now. Because with a flat grind, we would have only had to take off material near the edge here. We wouldn't have had to take material off the whole of the bevel. And that's another thing. That's why I'm trying to be fairly conservative, because when you sharpen a Scandi, you take all that metal there, not just along the edge. I'm being careful because it's already pretty wicked sharp. So as I say, when you sharpen a Scandi, you remove material from the whole bevel, whereas when you're doing a flat grind, the bevel is so small on the edge Hence, I could run a micro bevel on this when I'm finally done, and then whenever I want to come sharpen it, I can just sharpen the micro bevel. I mean, it won't matter on all this, I think. I think I might do that, but give me your opinion down below. Well, a lot of grinding later, I think we might actually be done. I can't feel, close my eyes, I can't feel, there's a hint of a chip there. But what I will do, just get there, you can see, although it's very unpolished, you can see it's all pretty uniform now. What I should do now to refine it, even on this 200 grit Waterstone, is I shall do some leading edge single strokes, alternating. I shall do some of those, and then I'll come back to, and I shall do some dropping style strokes. And the idea is to gently break off the pretty aggressive burr that the coarse stone has left. So we'll do some alternating strokes. So when I put it on that way and I'm tipping that to bevel, I put my thumb on the bevel, and on this way my thumb tips it up and it keeps it perfectly flat. See? And then the other way I put it flat and I put my finger on the bevel and that tips it up and keeps it perfectly flat. So I'm going to do about 50, getting lighter and lighter, and then we'll see what sort of edge we got, albeit a very coarse edge, ready to go on, probably in another video because it's getting on now, probably in another video, onto the progressively less coarse grits. But already you can hear that it's a much nicer edge. Now the chips have gone and the dinks and donks are gone. I'll just refine this edge, and I'll get back to you, and we'll do a cut test, see what we're getting even at this 220 grit, which is really coarse, considering I'm probably going to finish on a 6000. Okay, so I've done about 30 alternating strokes that way, leading in like that, and I've done about the same amount, so edge leading, and then I did edge trailing. So basically I stropped on the same stone as I sharpened. So this isn't really sort of a stropped knife. So what I have done is I've got a piece of cardboard, and all I've done is I've done 20 like stropping strokes on the cardboard, and let's see what we got. I mean, don't expect this to be razor sharp. This is 220 grit. I've got a bit of paper here. I mean, that's really sharp, but it is toothy. Now, if I was processing fatty foods like pork and things, I would leave that on the toothy edge, because and you see what I like, you know. That's a bit wet for my nail sharpener. Let's get a dry piece. Now let's use this. Just use this piece of old paper, and it's the whole length of the blade. So I think it's safe to say the chips are gone. All we're left with is a crude edge. Right, there's a little bit of hanging up right at the base because I have to sort it out a bit near the plunge line. But on balance, that's a pretty sharp knife. I mean, that's a working knife. You could work with that now. You could take that into the field, even at 220 grit. So I'm going to leave it there, guys. What I'll do is I'll run some photos in at the end, if I remember. If I don't, bye-bye. I'll run some photos in at the end of the edge before and the edge after. And then in the second video, I might crank out my 1000 grit stone and just polish it down a bit. And I might even get the 6000 out and see if I can give it a bit of a nice shiny edge. But actually, I'm over the moon with that. Who wouldn't be? Considering you saw how chippy and bad it was, and now that's a working edge. That's a beautiful knife. I absolutely love this knife. It was a grail for me, and I've got one. but it's not going to sit in the cupboard. I've got to sort the sheath out, and then I'm going to use it. And hopefully through the summer I'll post some videos of using it, processing some trout, sea bass, that kind of thing, and maybe a little bit later in the year a bit of a nice surprise hunting video. Thanks guys, take care, bye bye. Guys, just a quick video to show you how much nicer that edge is. Now I've just given it a quick go. I say quick, it was about 15 minutes all told. With the 220 grit, it's, let's find it there. So it's matte, but it is a nicer flat. Even with my fingers I can tell. Instead of it having that like 2 or 3 different steps down, it's got one. The chips that were up here are completely gone. And from that paper cutting test you could tell it cut pretty good with the whole blade. But once I get that on the 1000 grit stone, can it focus? Focus, you flip. Yeah, I'll be really happy with that. I mean, I'm happy with this anyway. I mean, yeah, I'm going to do a lot of work with this knife, and it's going to be, I'll show it from the other side. All this marks up here were already done from the previous sharpenings by the previous owner, and so it's got some patina and it's got some scratching on the blade, and I don't care. This is going to be a working knife. It was a working knife. It's spent its whole life working, and I'm looking forward to putting it through its paces. Alright guys, the other thing is there's mine seems to have different writing on the blade. I'm not sure if it was a special edition or something, but there you go. So there you go guys, thanks for hanging with me. Next video will be more, if I do another video, it'll just be me refining the edge and showing you the final product. And maybe I'll tell you what, maybe I'll even use it to finish off. I'll put it to work and I'll fillet some fish with it. Take care guys, bye bye.